Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the award-winning Great Indoors is proud to come to the fabulous Las Vegas Convention Center, MWC 2022. Baby, let's make it amazing.
Thank you once again, Frank. Yep, this is season 5 of TGI, and we're still here in Las Vegas as the GSMA's official podcast. I've been amazed by the multitude of guests from across the industry that we have spoken to, and I'm also joined by my producer and co-pilot, Larissa Yee. Now, this is the third episode of the incredible conversations that we captured at North America's biggest telecoms and technology show, MWC Las Vegas 2022. And here I was really honored to be joined in this episode by 3 guests from 2 incredible industry leaders. We have Dan Tigerson and Emil Litka from the current leader in 5G rollout in the United States, the Un-carrier, of course, T-Mobile. And I was also joined by the world's leading cloud provider, AWS, and their CTO of Edge and Telecom Division, Dr. Ishwar Harulka. Now, we will be discussing what happens as these 2 technologies, 5G and cloud, combine to really start to realize the dreams of the future. So buckle up and let's get started. Okay, so our next guest on the Great Indoors today, here at Mobile World Congress 2022 in fabulous Las Vegas. I'm really honored and excited to welcome 2 gentlemen I had the pleasure of meeting in Copenhagen last week, and that is Dan Tigerson. He's the SVP of Wholesale and Platform Operations at T-Mobile, which includes MVNO, IoT, and B2B2X. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you very much, Matt.
And Emil Litka, who's the Senior Director of Operations at T-Mobile also. So thank you very much, guys, for joining the Great Indoors.
Thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
For our listeners, if you will, Dan, give a bit of an overview of your division and what you're responsible for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So wholesale at T-Mobile really includes MVNO, most of the IoT business that's running on the T-Mobile network today, as well as all of our partner relationships. B2B2X really is the best way to describe it. We tend to run a line of business that focuses on the non-T-Mobile branded products and services. So it's brands and services that are recognized in the marketplace related to someone else's name besides T-Mobile, which is a huge part of the wireless industry. Mm-hmm. And that's across several different kinds of products and services. So again, MVNO is generally consumer-centric. IoT is both consumer and industrial. And then the B2B2X allows us to really work on relationships and partnerships with solution providers that have pieces to put together, one of which would be connectivity as part of taking products and services to the market as the owner of those products and services. So.
Okay, great. Now, so far at the show, obviously 5G's been big. We know 5G's big for T-Mobile, and you're leading very much in the race to 5G. IoT has been a huge hot topic the last couple of days. I've met a lot of people talking about IoT. But so far, in the 2 days you've been here, and I'll pose the same question to both of you, what's been the thing that you've seen that's enlightened you the most, should we say?
You know, I think for me, the difference between, even a couple years ago, pre-pandemic, and now, a lot of the conversations are very similar, but the industry has evolved. It's all about timing. Mm-hmm. Whether you're talking about devices, whether you're talking about specific use cases or channels, we have the pleasure and the opportunity to work with some really smart people across the industry, and the ideas, the concepts were there, but just maybe the timing wasn't there. And now with things like 5G, which enables quite frankly, opens up a lot of things that maybe just weren't ready, maybe a little bit ahead of its time. Mm-hmm. Now is the time to act. And so now the conversations that we're having are getting beyond the art of possible maybe, and actually really getting into execution phase. And that, from the operational side really excites me, because now it's shovels in dirt, it's execution, and we start to actually realize the benefits, whether that's efficiency gains or revenue generation, and it's happening in really kind of every phase of the customer journey.
I think the speculation and the hypothesizing is dying down, and the reality is coming in. That's what I'm
Yes,
seeing
exactly.
at this event so far. So what about you, Dan?
I think it's very similar. There's so much talk and so much attention around just really 5G as the service connectivity layer that's going to enable all of these things that IoT is actually starting to catch up to now, right?
Yes, yeah.
And now that this, especially I hear it from the people that we're meeting and people we're talking to, it's really recognized that T-Mobile specifically has this very strong and durable sort of lead in 5G deployment, 5G quality of service, 5G coverage. And now there's just so many people that are in a position to think about their business propositions differently because of that sort of lead and durability in the deployment of the 5G as a service. That enables people to bring products to market a little bit quicker. But I'm also just hearing people are thinking differently. And I think that's going to lead to a lot of innovation in the near future. There's going to be a lot of things that people are going to design and want to bring to market that are based on this really unique and strong and durable 5G core that they didn't have an opportunity to think about in the past, because that service method wasn't really there yet, right?
And and to add to that, I think it's, like I said, there was a lot of prophesizing. This is what we could do. This
Right.
is what it could potentially
Exactly.
enable. Now it's there. Now it's built.
Absolutely.
Let's get on it, right?
That's right.
And it's like that old, if you build it, they will come, and
We're
they've
there.
arrived.
That's right. We're there. Yeah.
So, the one feel I get, the one sense I get right now versus previous iterations of the 4G rollout, the 3G rollout, etc., is the importance of collaboration and ecosystems. This isn't something that can be done unilaterally by any service provider or any tech company. Are you getting a feel for that? And who have you really, this week or even before when we were in Copenhagen last week, where have you seen some real great collaborative efforts in this reality coming through?
There's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack there. I think from the technical relationship perspective, again, these emerging technologies and how we bring those services to market has enabled a really interesting and refresh on collaboration between T-Mobile and companies like Amdocs or companies like Netcracker, or the vendors that provide underlying platform capabilities and services to us that allow us to bring these value propositions to the market for our solution providers and our wholesalers and our MVNOs and our IoTs. I think that's been a key piece that I think has been super important. I also think just when we think about removing obstacles, removing pain points, we're in a much better place now than we were even when we started our Un-carrier journey, years ago. And one of the things that we're thinking about is, how do we make a transition from somebody who has an idea into a full scalable commercial deployment really simple, really easy, or as easy as possible? And so, we have a program now called DevEdge, which is really designed to get people to the network in a very simple and low barrier to entry model, with a module and a SIM card and a plan that lets them use as they develop and service their product. The second part of that is really developing a scalability model that says, once you're there and once you've figured out as a developer what you want to do and how you want to do it, we're trying to make it just screamingly simple
To replicate
and grow. We think those are the two kind of bookends. Like, how do you get there? And then once you're there and you like it, how do you grow? And so the DevEdge program really is designed around getting people there. And then how we formulate these business relationships and these strategic partnerships together is how we really drive that scalability piece and make it really easy to get from, I have an idea, my idea works, now how do I take it to market?
Yeah, I mean, I love the phrase, especially when I think about IoT or MDM, that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and that really applies in these types of scenarios, because solution means a lot of things to a lot of different people, but in its most core fundamental elements, you need a device, you need some sort of a network, you need some sort of an application, and it's very rare, at least as of right now, that one person really can take care of all of those different things. And so,
Exactly, yeah.
in order to reach the gains or the efficiencies or whatever we're trying to do, you've got to collaborate. And one of the things that I think T-Mobile is always known for, whether it's being the Un-carrier or being a disruptor, really what we are settling or finding ourselves in a position to do is enable that disruption and accelerate that disruption, whether it be purely by access to this amazing 5G network where we have and will continue to really lead there,
Yeah.
but also again, right, that ecosystem, that full breadth of players that are just angling to do something good, but may not have all the pieces to the puzzle. So it's really exciting to see when those pieces come together and to be a part of that and help enable that.
No, it's really interesting. And today alone, there's been so much focus, and I've had so many people, we've been speaking about IoT, but of course there's many different aspects of IoT. There's many different verticals, there's many different use cases. So far today, we've talked about connected health, we've talked about connected cows in Australia.
That's right.
That was
Yeah.
really, really interesting. Rick from ESAT, we talked about ambient IoT and the postage stamp tags that can go on. Out of all those different things, out of all those different areas, which one do you think is most imminent from a sort of inflection point that's really going to set the market alight? Is there one? And I don't think it's a right or wrong question. It could be
Yeah.
which one excites you the most.
I feel really conflicted in that because, I mean, depending on, what website or Instagram feed or whatever, there's a lot of really cool stuff out there, right? And whether that's, so I can figure out how many stops my dog's taking or how fast my kid is driving in his car. The things that feel most imminent in terms of like truly changing how things work is industrial, right? I mean, whether that be oil and gas or reverse logistics and distribution channels and things like that. That is where you're going to drive efficiencies. I mean, I still recall, something as basic as literally pretty much a phone taped to a post out in the middle of nowhere to take a picture on every so often of a gas meter that saved the company from having to put someone in a truck and drive 45 minutes. That, I mean, as basic as that is, that was efficiencies gained.
Yeah.
And to do that in a much more mature, scalable way is only going to make those things that much better. And so that's where I think the unfortunate thing is, I think to the most people, you're probably not going to see that day to day. But I mean, it's such a stark difference between industrial and home automation, or a robot lawnmower, whatever.
Whatever it may
Yeah.
be. And Dan, what about you?
Well, I think this graduation from what we used to call M to M into this sort of phenomenon, the phenomenon that's called IoT now, is also super interesting, and it does tie back to the technologies that are the underlying service that enable these features and functions. It was M to M in the past because it was a 2G or a 3G technology, and now as we progress and graduate into 4G and 5G, and you see the complexity of these solutions sort of keep task with that. It's really, really interesting. Now, there's a lot of things I think we're on the cusp of learning about as innovation really goes back to, like, now that you've got this service layer that's called the network, what can I do with it? I think we're about to see a pretty significant uptick in really innovative ideas. And I agree that the industrial application from every vertical that's part of that related to IoT, you're just going to see this massive, massive opportunity to operationalize savings and also bring new services to market that obviously are driving growth and revenue attribution and those traditional things. But I wouldn't want to leave out the fact that there's this thing out there. I'm a bit of a crypto fan, so I want to tie this into it. Blockchain, the metaverse, Web 3.0, those are all big concepts. And they all are going to change how people interact with everything, with other people, with machines. And I think there's a huge opportunity as people start to get more comfortable with what those things are. Like, how does crypto play into the way the world works? What does the metaverse really do for people? And what is Web 3.0 as people get more comfortable with those as concepts and as defined operational models? You're going to see 5G and the network services tie into every single one of those things because they're going to change how people live their lives. And the one thing that is consistent across all of those unique things, whether it's crypto or blockchain or Web3 or the metaverse, is they need connectivity. They need that layer that brings it together. And so I see a huge opportunity in innovation around those concepts and those constructs that it just doesn't exist yet, right?
Yeah.
It's super early, or it's starting to exist. It's really starting to kind of flesh itself out. But over the next few years, I think you're going to see a massive endeavor of people focusing on those things, and it's going to be really interesting.
Now, here's another thing that I've picked up this week, and it actually wasn't this week, probably starting post-pandemic, if COVID really is in our rear-view mirror now. In the industry as a whole, and at T-Mobile, there's an emphasis on tech for good, right? So we always used to focus on functions, features, dollars, and cents. But I think now, and I get this from a lot of people, there's a drive to, what is the tech we're doing? How is that bettering society? Or how is it helping fix some of the other problems that humanity is facing right now? I think there's this almost altruistic notion as an industry. Do you get a sense for that?
100%, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at some of the things that T-Mobile is already doing on the early cusp, right? I mean, when you think about education, right, and the homework gap, and the amazing job our T-Mobile for Business and government has done in that space, really trying to, I mean, and going through the struggles of just the last 2 years. I mean, you talk about an amazing timing of being able to be there and help these school districts and help these kids at a time when they found themselves without that kind of connectivity, without that kind of focus, at a significant disadvantage. And to see that happen, not just generically, but in my community and in the school districts that my own kids are there, it's phenomenal to see that. I mean, you're also seeing it from a telehealth perspective. Again, right? I'll keep hyping up our TFB group, the things that they've done with the VA and the stuff that it's just it's cool, but it's awesome to see that, like you said, utilizing that technology to advance things and to do things in a great fashion.
Yeah. I agree. I think go back a few weeks when we all spent some time at Mobile Future Forward as well, and we saw some really interesting telehealth examples. I think the opportunity for that vertical, the health vertical, is just going to explode. And it comes back to having the sort of the technologies that enable the innovation to happen, and I think we're there. The other part, really, that you see it even in town here is autonomous vehicles and how. Talk about using network services and building value propositions for good, for the better of humanity, for the better of the environment. Like, I couldn't think of a more interesting one that's obvious right in front of us is autonomous vehicles, and so much design and intent around the industry of automation with cars and fleets and buses and whether it's technology around lithium batteries or something that we do as an uncarrier to enable those things to happen, those seem to be having a significant impact. I mean, you just look at the number of people that are driving electric cars or spending time thinking about value propositions related to moving things from one place to another, whether it's a car or a bus or a train. There's just so much there.
No, and it reminded me of, I met Gillian from Dell yesterday, who heads up their thought leadership, and her story is fascinating. She had a horrendous car accident many years ago, and she's championing autonomous cars now, because obviously the error rate of a machine versus a human is much less, and she sees it as an imperative to society.
Right.
We think autonomous cars are cool because, whoa, they're autonomous.
That's right. Yeah.
But that extra layer that she added onto it. And another thing I'll add to your point before, Emil, I met Dr. Kaisha King yesterday. She's a credit to T-Mobile.
Absolutely.
What a personality. What a fantastic initiative she's doing for you guys. It was really groundbreaking. And on top of that, I'm another one of your partners, Halo.
Right.
I'm meeting this afternoon.
Oh, excellent.
So we're going to do some filming, and I will be getting in an autonomous vehicle for the first time.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I'll have to have a few drinks before.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Anyway, so look, we're almost out of time. What we're going to finish with now is the TGI to go round that I spoke about before. So if you're ready, we'll do TGI to go.
TGI to go. Let's go.
TGI to go. First question. Sinatra or Dean Martin?
I gotta go with Blue Eyes.
There you
I'm there as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he'll be here at 3 o'clock.
Wow, that's amazing
the,
technology.
the real Frogstad. This is what technology can do.
Yeah,
of
that's
course.
right.
It's fantastic. Second question. Dan, I'll do this one to you first. Blackjack or roulette?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with blackjack.
Okay. Have you done much blackjack so far?
A little bit.
Neil?
You know, if anything, to change it up, I'll go roulette, because when a table, I mean, when you see a table and people are screaming and yelling and hugging each other that just met, and
Yeah.
that's a pretty unreal experience to be in.
Okay, great. Now we're in Las Vegas, but which one do you prefer, New York or Los Angeles?
Well,
Wow, tough call. tough call.
Well, actually, what I should say, let's make it more contemporary. Copenhagen or Seattle?
Well,
weather's about the same.
yeah. Well, that's a tough one for me as well. I'm of Danish ancestry, so and it was my first time just recently to go there. So it was an amazing experience. But I am also I'm a hometown guy. So for me, you know, I've lived all over the world, traveled extensively throughout Asia and Europe. But I always find that my heart and the place I'm the most comfortable actually is right back home in Seattle.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We'll stick with New York and
Yeah,
LA on that.
you know, I mean, by default, I'm gonna have to go New York. I'm a huge Mets fan, and you know,
Okay, there you
we've
go.
got I think it's 6 or 7 games left to go, and the Mets are up 1 game left, and I'm really hoping for an amazing playoff season. So let's go Mets.
Okay, there we go.
It's so tough. You're asking us, the people who live on the West Coast, to make a call between the West Coast and the East Coast. Who's going to meet us after the 7 as soon as we leave this room?
The Venetian or the Cosmopolitan?
Man, you know, it's funny because we have spent a lot of time in the Venetian over the years for Mobile World, or for CES and other events here. You know, Secret Pizza, Cosmopolitan, late at night. If you don't know, got to go figure that place out.
Yeah.
Cosmo's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think we've been at the Venetian and the Palazzo for years, and I have really fond memories of staying there. Just that stretch of restaurants in between. We had dinner at
Yep.
Delmonico's last night
Oh,
at the
yeah,
kitchen
it's
table,
really- yeah,
and it was just an amazing experience.
Fantastic, yeah.
And but the Chandelier Bar at the Cosmos got an interesting drink called the Verbena that you have to
I've
make sure
heard
that you
about
try.
it.
It's not on the menu.
Larissa's a big fan of this drink. She's
Yeah.
talking about it a lot.
Yeah.
Kelly knows what I'm talking
Have
about.
to take the Halo
Yep.
car.
Yeah,
over
So
there.
exactly.
I tell you, it's, you know, like many other things in life, it's really hard to necessarily pick the left or the right, the black or the
Yeah,
white.
yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of great things in every example that
Yeah,
you forced us to
exactly.
try to pick a
Exactly.
side to.
Well, let's see if you can pick one on this one.
All right.
This is thrown a few people. Singing or dancing?
Well, I can do neither of those well, but have been known to do both from time to time.
Yeah, I think I would go with the singing, and then depending on the mood and the audience, I might throw a little dancing in with
The
it.
amount of those cosmopolitan cocktails.
That's right.
Well, I
That's
imagine.
right.
That's right.
That's right.
Well, listen, guys, that finishes our TGI to go round. I've really enjoyed your company and the conversation we've had here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to visit us on the great indoors. And do you have any final closing statements or comments you'd like to make just for our listeners, just to conclude?
Well, let me say thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to come in and spend some time together. As you think about what T-Mobile, whether it's the wholesale organization or the T-Mobile for Business organization or the network story or any of the things that the Un-carrier brings to market, as you think about how those might impact your life, really think about you know, how we can work together to bring those things to life. It's a little bit different when you think about it probably from a consumer perspective, but a lot of the people that are here are thinking about it from an industrial or for an entrepreneur perspective. And you know, we are here. We're open for business. We're here to collaborate. We're really here to help people define what those solutions are, if that's what's needed, and of course to bring those things to market together. So the big thing for us, the message I'm trying to leave with everybody here is, bring us into the conversation. Let us offer whatever we have that you might deem useful or needed, and let's find a way to collaborate and do something together.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Emil?
You know, I mean, the only thing I would add to that makes what Dan said really come to life is the people that we have the opportunity to work with day in day out. I mean that includes our stakeholders as well as people from outside of T-Mobile. But I think about like the team I'm responsible for and just absolute rock stars that are so customer experience obsessed, whether it's manual work or it's pure automation or whatever else. We have this amazing team that for years has just continued to overperform and to continue to give them the tools and the network to enhance that. Is the thing that gets me so excited to see them continue to kind of drive the industry.
Brilliant. No, thanks again, gentlemen. And where to next? Because I just recounted, we're following each other all around the world.
We are, aren't we?
The last three
That's
or
right.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
So where to next? Back to Seattle for a few weeks, or are you still?
We'll go back to Seattle for a couple weeks, and then for us, it's the big final push through the end of the year to make sure that we close out the year where we need to be, and then build that momentum going into Q1. So we've got time sort of allocated between now and the end of the year for New York, for Miami, for San Francisco. We'll be at the MVNO show, MVNO Nation Live show in Valencia, Spain in November.
Very nice.
And then, of course, we'll all be back in Las Vegas in January for CES. It's going to be a busy fourth quarter, which, if things go as well as we hope, it's going to create the momentum to keep us just as busy in Q1. For us, it's really the focus on growth. We want to grow the partners that we have. We want to grow new partners. We want to continue to grow the products and services that we make available. And so we're just, maniacally focused on that over the course of the next few months, and super excited about it.
Brilliant. Thank you both again, gentlemen. It's been great.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Joining us from AWS is Dr. Ishwar Parulkar, who's the CTO of Edge and Telecom. Welcome to the Great Indoors, Ishwar.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And like I said, we've had a long week, but I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Give us just a quick overview of your role and your background and how you came to be at AWS.
Yeah, so I'm currently the chief technologist for Edge and Telecom at AWS. It's a vertical that we've created to focus on the telecom industry because we see the value the cloud can bring in transforming telecoms to become digital service providers from simple connectivity providers. I've had a long career in technology. I've been at AWS for 6 years. Prior to this, I was at Cisco for about 10 years as the chief architect for their service provider business unit. So I built a lot of the 4G networks across the world with the products that I was developing there.
Wow.
And during 2015-16, I started looking at 5G, edge computing, network function virtualization, software-defined networking, these new technologies. And I was convinced that cloud could fundamentally change this, which is what brought me to AWS in 2016.
Right.
So started that journey there, convincing AWS and the cloud that this was a huge opportunity, talking to telcos about what the cloud could do, build the technology that was required and reach the level of maturity that we have right now. But that's kind of been my journey from the telco world to cloud to really start transforming this.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I was at Sun Microsystems, Apple, so done a bunch of kind of interesting different things in the Silicon Valley.
No, wow, sounds amazing, sounds awesome. And just from a personal perspective, a lot has happened in the last 12 months. I certainly feel a tremendous amount has happened in the last 12 months. For you personally, what's the biggest innovation that has made a profound impact on your life or what you see around you?
Yeah. So technology continues to amaze me. Even as a child, I was fascinated by it, which is what got me into this, space from a very young age, right? So if you were to ask me about the last 12 months, it's definitely video conferencing or, video. I mean, it's been there for a while, but it's taken a leap in terms of quality and features and just the usage patterns, right? So the work environment has changed. But interestingly, I've connected with friends from high school, and we have happy hours virtually on video conferencing. And we used to know each other and be connected, but it's the last year, the pandemic and the fact that video conferencing is now just an integral part of our lives, that has made this happen.
No, absolutely. I've got my own example, exactly what you said there. I hadn't spoken to some university friends for over 20
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
But because of the pervasiveness of video conferencing, we now
Yeah.
have monthly check-ins on
Same,
VC,
yeah, exactly,
right?
yeah.
And everybody gets together. So
Yeah.
it is cool.
And it's the same with the family. I have a global family. I have cousins across the world. We rarely get a chance to meet together at any time.
Yeah.
And again, we have these regular video conferences with like 30, 40 people. Of cousins and uncles and aunts who are spread across the world. So it's just become a part of life now, and it's fantastic to be connected. In that way.
Absolutely, absolutely great. Now, AWS is a key partner of ours. What is your strategy now moving forward over the next 12 months? So, like we said right at the beginning, a lot has happened since COVID, but what's your vision moving forward now in your particular domain?
Yeah. So I think the cloud is going to be a fundamentally key element of building telecommunication networks and all kinds of telecommunication networks. And we've been on this journey for the last 4 or 5 years building the assets.
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing now is a level of maturity in the technology of the cloud. The cloud was not ready for some of the telecommunication workloads, and we have made it get to that level so that we can run network functions at the scale, reliability, performance that's required to really host networks, right? So we've done that journey. So we are mature in terms of the technology, and we're seeing telcos getting comfortable with the idea and starting to play or adopt it in actual networks.
Yes.
So we have early adopters. We have some large telecom providers starting to look at it seriously. And we saw that in the original cloud journey when we started in 2007 and 8. There was skepticism in the beginning. There were questions about security, about the willingness to have somebody else manage your infrastructure. We were seeing the same questions, but we are getting past that now.
Yes.
So the next 12 months to 2-3 years I see as really a more adoption and acceleration of cloud for building definitely 5G networks. The core OSS, BSS, some of those systems are now, folks are very comfortable, seeing those run in the public cloud.
Yeah.
But then we'll see other network workloads also start moving over, like routers and the RAN stack, parts of the RAN stack, and so forth.
Absolutely.
So I see that continuing, but I see this as an inflection point this year and the next year, where we'll see a kind of a rapid adoption of these technologies.
No, and I think the cynicism is dissipating from the service providers.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
They see the value in it.
Yeah.
They see implementations, and now they're getting on board. So, like you said, it's full steam ahead, right?
Yeah,
as far as
absolutely.
you're concerned.
Yeah, so it was building proof points as well as really getting maturity in the technology as well, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's how these new disruptions happen, is you have to build it, you have to put it out there, try, learn from it. And we have had that learnings incorporated to really get to this level of maturity.
Absolutely. And how has 5G propelled your strategy or your thinking? And actually, not just 5G, the technologies that coalesce around 5G, whether it's edge, the move to private enterprise networks, how has that helped shape and sculpt your strategy moving forward?
So the 5G, or the underpinnings of how 5G has been spec'd and being designed, has been pretty fundamental to the adoption of cloud. So virtualized networks were around for a few years, and as I was saying earlier, I was in my earlier role, I was at Cisco building these networks when the technology transition started happening. And it was the nature of these technologies that made me move to AWS to really drive adoption of cloud, because they inherently make cloud as a natural way to build this. And what do I mean by that? So if you look at 5G core, the packet core, the 3GPP spec itself has taken a big leap in terms of defining it in a more cloud native manner.
Yes.
So it's service-based architecture.
Yes.
That's how you build applications in the cloud, is using microservices. The interfaces between the components are modern interfaces. Telcos traditionally had very niche, proprietary to the industry interfaces like Radius and Diameter. I don't know, folks might know of or not know of these names, but these are used only in the telco industry. But if you look at general applications, it's HTTP.
Absolutely.
And you can design any software with HTTP. Why have this unique specific protocol that's only used by a certain industry, right? So 3GPP has done that. They've used HTTP interfaces as an example in the 5G architecture.
Yeah.
And then the vendors have taken the next step of implementation. So they're building these functions with in a microservices, service-oriented architecture approach. They've moved from classic software model to virtual machines to now containers. So all of that has helped the cloud to kind of be the kind of a natural platform for running these. So that is very critical. That's what 5G has done. So
Yeah. And one thing that has really come out of this particular event, and I've heard it echoed by Sampath from Verizon, Chris Sambar at AT&T, Neville Ray, T-Mobile, a recent event I was at, is there's a stronger propensity, a stronger need, and a stronger desire for more collaboration across tech partners.
Yeah.
Even competitors are starting to collaborate in many aspects. Are you seeing that from AWS perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always been the case with technology. I think you do need different pieces to build things, and I think as we build more and more of the stack, or what I mean by stack is just basic hardware to the internet to services on top, and new players emerging all the time, it just becomes more and more complex, and there's no one player that can do everything, right?
Exactly.
So you have to have a combination of expertise and people who have strengths in their own space to kind of put together some of these complex systems that we are designing
Yeah.
as we go
Yeah.
ahead. I still remember as a child being interested in technology, I could design a full little computer on my own, building things. It's like the software and the bits and the firmware and everything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But that was, a few decades ago, and now you just can't have one kind of domain, not even a company, one space, just building a complex system.
Yeah. Now, and going into how the journey to the cloud, the race to 5G, is now starting to manifest itself amongst the service providers. Like you said, the cloudification of the networks, the next industrial revolution, all these terms that they've been throwing, we've been talking about for years and speculating about. It's here right now. It's happening, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing some of the things I've seen this week where the 5G use cases have gone from fixed wireless access and connectivity to the stuff we used to dream about, the stuff we used to prophesize about. What is it that excites you about any of those new 5G-driven use cases and how they'll impact society?
Yeah. So one of the things is I wanted to just dwell a little bit on what you said about use cases and things like that, right? The way we've been talking about technology, the way most people talk about the technology, even in this show, is you see different perspectives on how you see evolution of these networks. One is, it's 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, it's like a next generation. The other one is through devices. We had, kind of rotary phones, then we had these massive brick-like mobile phones to smartphones to now IoT devices and so forth, right?
Yeah.
The way I like to look at it is from the killer app perspective. What was the killer app for the network, right? So if you look at the first generations, it was connectivity. It was connecting people, it was connecting devices, it was connecting computers, and so forth. 1G, 2G. 3G, 4G was about data. It was about moving massive amounts of data, because the killer app was things like Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and some of these very video-intensive applications. So the network's killer app was, how do you move data between servers, between people, gaming, things like that.
Yeah.
With 5G and beyond, I see the killer app as applications. So it's network as an application. How do you offer the network itself as an application? So the use case, what the network is being used for, there's a variance of these things, and you can design the network to fit that use case. And that's the way I like to look at it, because that is what is really changing the paradigm. So that opens up a whole new world of how do you build networks, how do you offer networks, and that's where things like virtualization or using the cloud to really dynamically change the configuration of the network, or a new service that you want to offer, or create a slice of the network that is meant for a very specific use case or application can be created. So to me, that's really the exciting part of 5G, and with cloud. It's not, it is cost of ownership and operations and automation, which is the basic value of the cloud. But really the beauty of this is what it'll enable in terms of how you use the network and what use cases it can, kind of open up.
No, I think that's a wonderful way of looking at it. And just so so basically, I want to buy as an application a network that's going to help me do industrial automation. So it needs these inherent features and functionalities or parameters to make that as effective as it is for that particular application. Right?
Absolutely, and that's all under the hood. It happens,
yeah.
but it's using the cloud and using some of these technologies makes that happen. But that's essentially the vision: is that you really want the network for a specific application, and the magic all happens without the developer or the user having to worry about it.
And this is an example I had this week. A farmer who wants to track his cattle that is distributed over hundreds and hundreds of miles, he will then want a network application to support the application to track those cows.
Yep.
And then again, that's going to look very different to a private enterprise network that does autonomous vehicles in a mine, for example, which is another one we've talked about. That's a really, really great way.
And you want to look at it from the perspective of the application, right? That's why I talk about the killer app, is because that's what will determine what you want underneath. And the user doesn't want to really worry about the detail. The farmer doesn't care if it's CBRS or
exactly
or 3,500 megahertz spectrum or it doesn't matter. So.
I haven't met a farmer yet that would probably want that. There may be one out there. In the past, in the olden days, we would very much, and I've been in marketing for many years in different tech companies, we would focus on functions, features, speeds, components. But now, a lot of the marketing or the messaging is on outcomes. So we focus on those outcomes, and people are very comfortable in talking about the outcomes of that technology set. But I think as well, what's interesting here is the focus on those outcomes are not just outcomes that save dollars and cents or make somebody some more money, but what's good for society here? How are we propelling society forward or solving issues that are facing humanity? Is that something you're picking up as well?
Absolutely. Clearly, sustainability, as you can see, is a big topic. We believe that is the biggest problem we need to solve for the future generations. And the cloud again plays a big role there in sustainability. But personally, being a technologist, I have had a very, very strong propensity, inclination to really see what it could do for social good. Just a personal story is I spent a few years in India. That's where I grew up. I spent most of all my professional career in the US. But I grew up in India, and when I was part of Cisco building these networks, I spent a few years in India. I went back there, and that was primarily driven by the fact that I saw a lot of innovation in the valley. I've been a part of a lot of the innovation. A lot of it has gone into just improving productivity of a already kind of enriched society. And I really wanted to understand what mobile technology could do for emerging markets like India and Africa, and at that time China. And what I learned was the power of mobile technology to really uplift the underserved parts of the economic strata. And if you see what that has done in places like Africa, India, it's completely changed the economics of that place. There are hawkers, these folks who have, just a small pile of vegetables they're selling, or rickshaw drivers or fishermen who now are directly connected to customers because they have these mobile devices, right? And they have leapfrogged because there is no fiber infrastructure or internet connectivity at home. So my favorite story is about this a young kid in India from a village, who became the juniors golf world champion. He's from a little village, and he learned golf watching YouTube videos on his mobile phone. He would be on a farm. He'd start hitting the ball. But one golfer noticed him and then got him trained and everything. But this is what mobile technology can do. And this is just one personal example. But I was very curious to see how that could change society. So coming back to what we're doing with 5G and some of this, I think there's tremendous potential to really unlock some of the challenges we've had in terms of digital divide, remote schooling, bringing some of these information schooling and some of the opportunities to inner cities, rural areas, and underserved communities.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think there's tremendous potential there as
No,
well.
it's an amazing it is an amazing message, and I love your story there, Ishwar. It's great. As a keen golfer, I need to be looking at
Yeah.
YouTube more. It sounds like. So look, if we get together again in 12 months' time, and we sit down and have this conversation, what's your prediction? Because, like I said, a lot has happened from when we were in Los Angeles 12 months ago to where we are now. I'm just interested to do a bit of look at the tea leaves, look into the future a little bit. What do you think? And we talked about things are moving fast, and cloud
Yeah,
adoption
yeah.
and cloudification will move fast. What else do you think would be on top of that we should be cognizant
Yeah,
of?
so there's a few things. One is I think 5G will be a reality. I mean, it's happening, but I'll see 5G, just there, just like we have been talking about 4G for the last few years, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is I think private networks will really gain adoption. We are again at I think inflection point in the curve where there's been proof of concepts, there's been some business justification, but I think in the next year is when you will kind of see a whole scaling of that. And the third one is around sustainability. I think that is definitely going to be at the forefront. It's already getting there, but I think all companies in this space will definitely pivot towards having very intentional programs and efforts to make sure that they are building and developing things in a sustainable manner.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
So-
So look, we're almost out of time, and the time has flown by. Ishwar. I think we could keep talking all afternoon if we really wanted to, but we're going to go to our TGI quick fire round now, where our listeners get a chance to learn a little bit more about you in a more light-hearted way. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, let's do it. TGI to go. TGI to go. Question number 1: Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin?
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah. Did you see Frank Sinatra come over onto our booth the last couple of days?
I saw quite a few
You
stars.
may have heard him. Next question: Vancouver or Miami?
Miami.
Yeah. You like
I
Miami?
had to think a little bit. Yeah, maybe I'll switch that. I think it's Vancouver. Miami came immediately, but on thinking, yeah, Vancouver.
Okay.
I visited a year ago and I had a fabulous time. Great food.
Yeah.
Vancouver.
And you live in San Francisco,
Yeah,
right?
I do. So it's
Which
it's
is a
got
great
similarities
city.
a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, a little bit
Water. I
similar.
like water around. So.
Yeah. Excellent. Chinese food or Italian food? I always get these questions around lunchtime anyway. And
I am a huge foodie.
Oh, are you?
Massive,
Okay.
massive. It's I love everything from Michelin star restaurants to street food to traditional home cooked grandmother's recipes.
Right.
So this is a very difficult one for me.
Yes, of
I,
course.
I just don't have.
Yeah.
I'll eat anything and I'll try anything and I love all cuisines.
And have you had a chance to sample some of these great restaurants in Las
Yeah,
Vegas?
it's transformed really in the last few years with some of the top chefs. They even have shows, the Top Chef and things like that. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I have sampled quite a few of the restaurants here. I would love to get into see one of the chef shows here,
Yes,
which I have not done so far.
That would be cool. Japan or Italy?
Ooh, that's another one. I love traveling. I would pick Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I love the aesthetic. Japanese minimalism is one of the things that has attracted me. I started my career at Apple, where I learned about minimalism. How do you design products? How do you say no to features?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that appealed to me about classic Japanese culture, about minimalism and a whole bunch of things. And yeah.
Oh, excellent. And the final one, which is, I've had some very strange answers to this one this week, but singing or dancing?
Dancing.
Ah, okay.
I think singing is part of dancing. You're singing in your head, kind of thing. So I think it somehow encompasses both. But dancing, to me, really kind of gets me
Yeah, well,
going.
it was really interesting because I did a conversation with Kyan Krippendorf, the author, and I asked him the same question as part of the TGA to go, and he said, dancing.
Yeah.
He said, dancing, as you get older, as you go through your 30s and 40s and beyond, is the key way to keep your mental acuity.
Okay. I did not know that, but I can see that very well. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I didn't know that, and I've been dancing every evening, very much to my wife's disgust. That's what's been happening. So look, we've finished the episode now, Ishwar. But have you got any final comments that you would like to leave for our listeners before we end the show?
No, I think it's great to be here at at this event, and some of the things we talked about are super important. I'm so pleased to see people talking about it. How do we use technology for social good? I think we need more of this
Absolutely.
conversation, and
Yeah.
it's been really good to see that the pandemic has, I think, made us reassess some of these things, some of these priorities, not just work, life, but what is important really, what really matters. And as technologists, as people who work in this space, we have an obligation, but the pandemic has brought it to the forefront. So I'm glad to see some of the benefits of going through something like that coming through.
Okay, excellent. Perfect ending comments. And I'm honored to have you on the Great Indoors, Ishwar, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon.
Yeah, it's absolutely been a pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Well, that was just another fantastic conversation from MWC Las Vegas 2022. Stay tuned for more, and also check out amdocs.com/The Great Indoors for more information, back episodes, and videos associated with TGI. In fact, there is a great video that's there right now that depicts some of the fun we had at the show. I'm Matthew Roberts in Las Vegas for Amdocs. See you next time, wherever you are.